Alright, let's talk about GMOs. The name itself sounds like something from a science fiction movie, right? Genetically modified organism. It's got that dramatic flair. But what does it actually mean? Think of it like this. For centuries, farmers have been playing matchmaker with their crops. They take the tallest corn plant and breed it with the sweetest corn plant, hoping their baby corn would be tall and sweet. It's a slow process, like waiting for your dial-up internet to connect. You hope for the best, but it takes forever, and you might get a weird result. It's nature's version of swiping right and hoping for a good match. Now, genetic modification is like giving that process a massive tech upgrade. Instead of waiting for plants to date, scientists go straight into the plant's genetic code, its DNA, which is basically the instruction manual for how to be a plant. They can find the specific instruction for, say, resisting a nasty bug, and copy-paste it directly into another plant. So you can take a gene that helps a plant survive a drought and put it into a corn crop. It's like giving your corn a superpower. So a GMO isn't a whole new alien species. It's a familiar crop, like maize or beans, that's had a tiny specific tweak to its internal software. This is where the conversation gets spicy, because people have big feelings about this. On one side, you have scientists and companies saying, look, we can make crops that fight off pests by themselves, grow in dry weather, or even have more vitamins. We can solve world hunger. They see it as a powerful tool to make farming more efficient and productive, especially in places facing tough climate conditions. It's the promise of a revolution in how we grow our food, making it more resilient and abundant for a growing global population. It's a very optimistic, we can solve it with science kind of vibe. But on the other side, you have people who are pumping the brakes. They're saying, hold on a second. We're changing the fundamental building blocks of life here. Are we sure we know what we're doing? The questions start pouring in. Is it safe to eat? What does it do to the environment? Who gets to control this powerful technology? It's not just about the science. It's about trust, control, and the long-term consequences of messing with nature's playbook. And that's when you realize this isn't just a simple farming issue. It's a massive debate about our future. So, the biggest question on everyone's mind is, are these things safe to eat? This is where the experts enter the room and immediately start disagreeing, which is always reassuring. In Nigeria, you've got agencies like NAFDAC, the Food Safety Police, saying that if GMOs pass their safety tests, they're good to go. Their Director General, Prof. Mohisola Adeyeye, basically said that as long as the homework is done correctly, GMOs aren't inherently bad for you, it's a regulated process. They believe that with careful checks and balances, these modified foods can be just as safe as any other food on the shelf. But then, other experts jump in and go, not so fast. They point to studies from places like the United States and raise some serious red flags. For example, Professor Chris Christouberg Amua has linked the rise of GMOs and the herbicides used with them to an increase in a whole list of scary health problems: cancer, diabetes, infertility, and more. It's like a horror movie trailer of potential side effects. These experts argue that we haven't done enough independent, long-term research to know for sure what happens to our bodies after eating these foods for 20 or 30 years. They're worried about everything from allergies to organ damage, and that brings us to labeling. Proponents on all sides seem to agree on one thing: people should know what they're eating. NAFDAC has said GMO foods should be clearly labeled so you can make your own choice at the market. It's like a food democracy, right? You get to vote with your wallet. If you want the GMO-free option, you should be able to find it. This principle seems straightforward enough, giving consumers the power to decide for themselves what they are comfortable putting on their family's dinner table, which is a fundamental right in any market. The problem is, critics say this isn't really happening. Groups like the Living Science Foundation have called out the authorities, saying that the rules about labeling aren't being enforced. So, GMO products might be on the shelves right now, but you wouldn't know it because they look just like everything else. It's like a secret ingredient you were never told about. This lack of transparency makes people suspicious. If the food is perfectly safe, they ask, then why isn't it clearly marked? It feeds the fear that something is being hidden from the public eye. Now, let's get our hands dirty and talk about the soil. A big concern is what these GMO crops and the farming methods they require do to the land itself. Many GMOs are designed to be herbicide tolerant. This means farmers can spray their entire field with a specific weed killer and only the weeds will die. The GMO crop will be perfectly fine. It's very efficient. But this can lead to farmers using a lot more of that one herbicide, like glyphosate. The worry is that this chemical doesn't just kill weeds. It could also be harming the tiny, helpful organisms in the soil that keep it healthy and fertile. This leads to another huge question. Once you've grown GMOs on a piece of land, can you ever go back to organic farming? The answer is complicated. It's not like the land is permanently contaminated, but it's not a simple switch either. To get an organic certification, the land usually needs to go through a transition period, sometimes lasting several years, where no prohibited substances are used. Soil tests would be needed to ensure that chemical residues are gone. So it is possible, but it requires time, effort, and money, which can be a significant barrier for farmers wanting to switch back to traditional methods. But the controversy goes beyond the soil and into the world of business and law. Here's the deal. The companies that develop these special GMO seeds also patent them. A patent is basically a stamp that says, "I made this, so I own it." This means farmers can't do what they've done for thousands of years, save the best seeds from their harvest to plant next year. Instead, they have to buy new seeds from the company every single planting season. It's like having to buy a new license for your software every time you want to use it. This system creates a massive power shift. Smallholder farmers in Nigeria could become completely dependent on a few large, often foreign, multinational corporations for the very seeds they need to grow food. Experts warn that Nigeria's own laws might even help these companies sue farmers for reusing patented seeds. This isn't just about farming anymore. It's about economic control. It can reduce the diversity of local seeds, concentrate power in the hands of a few big players, and potentially push small farmers, who are the backbone of the nation's agriculture, out of business. Despite all the controversy, the reason GMOs are on the table in the first place is because they come with some big promises. The main argument in their favor is food security. Proponents say these crops can produce much higher yields than traditional ones. In a country like Nigeria with a massive and growing population, the ability to grow more food on the same amount of land is a huge deal. They are also engineered to be tougher, resisting pests and diseases that can wipe out an entire harvest. For example, the GMO cowpea, a type of bean in Nigeria, is resistant to a destructive insect, meaning less crop loss and less need for chemical pesticides. These benefits are why Nigeria has already approved or is developing several GMO crops. We're not just talking about one or two things. The list includes major staples like maize, cassava, and beans. The BT cowpea, which stands for Bacillus thuringiensis cowpea, was approved back in 2019 and is a big deal because beans are a major source of protein for millions. There's also work being done on transgenic rice and sorghum. The goal is clear use technology to build a more stable and abundant food supply to fight hunger and improve nutrition across the nation. But this technological path raises a profound question about national security. Critics argue that by embracing GMOs owned by foreign companies, Nigeria risks handing over control of its food supply. If the nation's farmers depend on seeds patented in another country, what happens if those supplies are cut off or prices skyrocket? They call it a threat to food sovereignty, which is the right of a country to control its own food and agriculture systems. The fear is that Nigeria could become a customer rather than a producer of its own staple foods, which is a very vulnerable position to be in. So what's the final verdict? It's complicated, and there's no easy answer. On one hand, you have the potential for more food, less hunger, and crops that can survive a changing climate. On the other hand, you have serious questions about long-term health, environmental impact, and the economic power it gives to giant corporations. For Nigeria, the path forward requires careful navigation. The debate isn't just about a bean or a corn cob. It's about health, tradition, science, and who gets to decide the future of the nation's food. And that is a decision that deserves a lot of thought.